You know this neighborhood now. After 3 days of surveillance, you know which flat the lights come on in first, you know which neighbors exchange words at the letterboxes in the morning, and which ones pass with a nod. You know that the man you have been watching works at a restaurant and cleans the public swimming pool. You know that his wife is Norwegian. You know that they met apparently sometime in the last 2 years, and that by the look of things, they are the kind of couple that is still surprised to have found each other. You know all of this because knowing it is your job, and you know something else. You know that this man is not who your superior believes he is, but the order has been given and in 4 minutes, 2 of your colleagues will step out of the gray Volvo parked on the far side of the street, and there is nothing more you will do tonight except sit on this bench with your shopping bag and watch the man you have been told is a terrorist walk toward his front door with his pregnant wife beside him. His name is Ahmed Bouchiki. He is 23 years old. He is a Moroccan waiter. He has never had any connection to the Palestinian armed groups your organization has been hunting for 11 months. He is about to be shot 12 times at close range because someone who was not on this street, who did not watch him for 3 days, who did not hear his voice in Norwegian, decided from 400 kilometers away that the intelligence was solid enough. You're sitting on a bench in a small Norwegian town in the white Nordic midnight, and you're thinking about Munich. You're Israeli. You grew up in a country that came into existence the year you were born. You need to understand what that means before you can understand anything that happens in Lillehammer. You did not grow up with an abstraction called the Holocaust. You grew up with the specific people who came out of it. Your grandmother's sister who did not come out of it, the number on the arm of your teacher at school in Haifa who never explained it and never needed to. The silence at the Passover table that had its own kind of content, as dense and specific as spoken language. The state of Israel was built on a single principle that is impossible to explain fully to someone who grew up in a country that has always existed, never again. Not as a slogan, not as a sentiment, as an operational doctrine, as the actual reason the Israeli intelligence community exists, as the reason young men and women from Tel Aviv and Haifa and Beersheba agree to spend years living under other names in other countries, reporting to people who cannot acknowledge their existence, protecting a nation that cannot officially acknowledge what they do. You join the institute, you learn not to call it Mossad, the way a surgeon does not call it killing 6 years ago. You came through the military first, then the assessment process that does not look like an assessment process, then the training at the facility near Herzliya, where they taught you everything a person needs to know to disappear into another country and function there for years without being the person you actually are. Your Hebrew name is known to 3 living people outside your family. The passport in your coat pocket tonight says you're a Canadian journalist named Patricia Rousseau. You have been living as Patricia Rousseau on and off for 2 years. You know Patricia's biography the way you know your own. Her childhood in Montreal. The French she speaks with a Quebecois accent, which you trained for 18 months to reproduce exactly the photography work, which is real because the best legend is one that requires you to actually do the thing it says you do. Then, September 5, 1972, the Munich Olympics. You were in Paris when it happened. You watched the coverage in a borrowed flat near the Pompidou Center, 11 Israeli athletes. 11 people who went to the Olympic Games to compete at something and came home in coffins. Within days, the directive came through from the Institute. Committee X had been convened in Tel Aviv. Prime Minister Golda Meir, Defense Minister Moshe Dayan, a small group of officials around a table, making a decision that cannot be unmade. The directive was simple. Find the people responsible for Munich. All of them. Every operational figure, every planner, every logistical support, and eliminate them. The operation was called Wrath of God. You were assigned to Caesarea Division, not as a Kidon, not as a trigger person, as a combatant in the surveillance and identification function. Your job was to establish the legend, build the local knowledge, confirm the target, and provide the intelligence that allowed the operation to proceed. In Rome, you did that work cleanly. In Paris, you did that work cleanly. In Lillehammer, something is wrong. By the summer of 1973, the operation has been running for 11 months. Whale Zwaiter. Rome, October 1972, shot 11 times in his apartment building entrance on Via Trionfale. 11 shots, 1 for each athlete. You were not there, but you know the team that was. Mahmoud Hamshari, Paris, December 1972. A device planted in his telephone detonated remotely when he answered and confirmed his name. You were in Paris 3 weeks before for the surveillance phase. Hussein al-Bashir, Nicosia, January 1973, a bomb under his hotel bed. You were not there. The work continues. Each operation follows the same architecture, intelligence from headquarters, confirmation on the ground by the surveillance team, authorization from Tel Aviv, execution. The system has worked. The system is precise. The system eliminated 3 of the most dangerous men in black. September in 11 months without a single innocent casualty, without a single team member lost. The system works because the intelligence is reliable. In the summer of 1973, an informant reports that Ali Hassan Salama, the Red Prince, the head of operations for Black September, the man Golda Meir holds personally responsible for Munich, is in Scandinavia, working apparently as a waiter, hiding in the silence of a small Norwegian resort town where nobody looks for Palestinian terrorists. The intelligence arrives through your headquarters as confirmed, reliable source. High confidence, the team is assembled and deployed to Lillehammer. You fly in from Stockholm on a Canadian passport. There are 15 of you in total, distributed across several hotels, arriving from different cities over 3 days: Frankfurt, Zurich, London, Copenhagen. You do not acknowledge each other in hotel lobbies. You do not share transport. You communicate through dead drops and pay telephones and the specific careful protocols that have kept the operation clean for 11 months. On the second day in Lillehammer, a Palestinian courier named Kamal Ben-Amaneh, known to your network, tracked from Geneva through Copenhagen to Oslo, and now to this small town in the Norwegian interior, is observed at the public swimming pool. He is seen speaking in French with a man. The man resembles photographs of Ali Hassan Salameh. Resembles, you are assigned to close surveillance. You spend the next 36 hours watching Ahmed Bouchiki. You have been watching this man for 36 hours and you know 4 things. First, he speaks Norwegian, not tourist Norwegian, not phrasebook Norwegian. Fluent, accented with something North African, but embedded in the cadences of a person who has been speaking this language daily for at least 2 years. You grew up speaking Hebrew, French, and English. You have trained in German and Arabic. You know what a person's relationship with a language sounds like. This man lives in Norwegian. Salameh does not speak Norwegian. Second, he moves like a man who knows his neighborhood. Not the careful, low-profile movement of a trained operative in a foreign posting. Not the particular quality of attention that comes from knowing someone might be watching. He stops to examine produce at a market. He waves to a woman across the street who calls him by his name, which is not the name on Salameh's file. He walks home from work by the same route each day at roughly the same time, not varying his pattern, not counter-surveilling, not doing any of the things a Black September operations chief would do in a new city. Third, his wife is Norwegian, 7 months pregnant with their child. She is obviously known to the neighborhood. People smile at her. This is not a temporary cover. This is a life. Fourth, looking at him, standing close enough in the market to confirm or deny the photographs. You have a specific professional certainty, the kind that your training at Herzliya taught you to trust above received intelligence, that this is not the Red Prince. You file your assessment. The note goes to the team leader through the secure channel. Your precise language, the subject does not conform to the behavioral profile or linguistic profile of the target. Recommend reassessment before proceeding. You're not alone. Marianne, the Swedish-born member of your team who heard the man speak Norwegian before you did, has filed the same concern through her own channel. She knows that Salameh does not speak Norwegian. The answer comes back from the operational controller. The intelligence is confirmed. The operation proceeds at 2200 hours. You sit with this for 3 hours. You think about Munich, you think about the 11 athletes, and the reason this operation exists. You think about the system, which has been clean for 11 months, which works because everyone trusts the intelligence and follows the protocols and does their job and does not allow individual doubt to paralyze a carefully constructed operation. You think about the people in Tel Aviv who have access to intelligence you do not have access to, who can see the full picture in a way that you on the ground in a small Norwegian town watching one man cannot. You think about what it means to trust the system, and you think, what if the system is wrong? At 2100, you send one more message, 5 words. I do not believe it is him. The answer, proceed as planned, July 21, 1973, 22:30. You do not watch it happen. You do not need to, you know the sequence. You have rehearsed the sequence in the abstract as part of your training, as part of the operational planning for dozens of missions. You know the sound a silenced weapon makes on a quiet residential street in a town where there has not been a murder for decades. You hear 12 shots. Ahmed Bouchiki is hit 12 times. He is dead before he reaches the pavement. His pregnant wife is standing 3 feet away from him when it happens. She is not harmed. This is not comfort. This is a woman who was laughing 30 seconds ago and is now standing in the Nordic twilight on a quiet street with her hands at her sides, and her husband bleeding on the pavement in front of her. She begins to scream. It takes her a moment, the way shock delays the body's understanding of what has just happened, and then she screams. You stand up from the bench. You pick up your shopping bag. You walk in the opposite direction. The exfiltration plan has 4 phases, and you execute them all correctly. Safe house, passport change, transit to Oslo. The team disperses, members leaving Norway through different airports and border crossings over the next 18 hours. By morning, 6 members of your team have been arrested. The operational failures begin with a car. The driver of the gray Volvo panics during the exfiltration. He uses a vehicle that can be connected to the team. The Norwegian police, investigating a murder in a town where murders do not happen, are thorough in a way that the operational planning did not fully account for. Within 48 hours, 6 members of the team are in Norwegian custody. One of them, a man named Dan Arbel, is severely claustrophobic. When his cell door closes, something in him gives way. He provides significant details about the operation in exchange for a larger cell with a window. He is not a coward, or rather cowardice is too simple a word for what happens when a person who has been running on mission discipline and adrenaline is suddenly alone in a small room in a foreign country with nothing to sustain them. Among the items recovered from the arrested team members, a key, not a metaphorical key, a physical door key that fits a Mossad safe house on the Rue de Rivoli in Paris. French police are notified. The flat is raided inside. Keys to other safe houses, phone numbers, operational documents, evidence connecting the Lillehammer team to the previous assassinations in Rome, Cyprus, and Paris. The entire European infrastructure that took years to build the safe houses, the phone networks, the Cyanum contacts, the operational protocols that kept the camp clean for 11 months begins to unravel. Mossad agents across Europe are recalled. Safe houses are abandoned. Phone numbers are burned. Operational methods that worked in Rome and Paris will now need to be rebuilt from the beginning because a team of Norwegian investigators is sharing everything they learned with their counterparts in France, Germany, Italy, and Cyprus. The Lillehammer affair, as it will come to be known, is not just the death of one innocent man. It is the destruction of the operational architecture that made the campaign possible. Golda Meir orders the suspension of Wrath of God, and at the center of all of it is a fact that becomes clearer with each day of the investigation. Ahmed Bouchiki was not Ali Hassan Salameh. He was a 23-year-old Moroccan waiter who happened to speak French, who happened to resemble the photographs of the Red Prince in a certain light, who happened to have a conversation with a Palestinian courier at a swimming pool that summer. He was a man whose entire presence in Lillehammer was explained by the simplest possible thing. He lived there. You're not among the 6 arrested. You exfiltrate cleanly. Your Canadian passport is clean. Your legend holds. You're back in Tel Aviv within 72 hours of the operation. You report to a debriefing room at the Institute and spend 6 hours telling 2 men everything you observed, and everything you reported, and everything you were told. When you finish, there is a silence in the room. One of the men asks, "Did you believe, when the order came to proceed, that the target was correctly identified?" You consider this question for a moment. You say, "No, here's what the Institute tells you. The intelligence was wrong. The source was unreliable, or was manipulated, which amounts to the same thing." Viktor Ostrovsky, who later wrote about the Institute from the inside, will claim that Salameh himself fed the Israelis false information to draw the operation to a dead end, that the Red Prince led the hunters deliberately to an innocent man, bought himself years of safety, and watched from Beirut as the Mossad's European network burned. Whether or not this is true, the outcome is the same. A man was killed, 6 operatives were arrested and convicted in a Norwegian court, and the entire campaign had to be suspended. Mossad director Zivi Zamir, who was present in Lillehammer the night of the operation, who authorized the proceed order, accepts responsibility. He offers his resignation to the prime minister. She refuses it. You never hear what he says privately about what happened. You suspect you already know. Here's what you carry. Not guilt in the simple sense. You did not pull the trigger. You filed your doubt through the correct channels, twice, in precise professional language. You did everything the system allows a person to do when they believe the system is making a mistake. What you carry is something more specific and harder to name than guilt. You carry the knowledge that you were right, and you knew you were right, and it did not matter. The system has a structure for certainty. It does not have an equally weighted structure for doubt. When an intelligence assessment comes from headquarters marked as confirmed, the mechanism for an operative on the ground to override it, to halt an operation, based on a surveillance instinct, a linguistic observation, a quality of attention in a man's walk, is not designed to work quickly enough. By the time doubt moves through the correct channels, the order has been given. You think about this for a long time. You think about the kanun of the Mossad, not the written rules, but the actual operating code. The mission exists because the nation requires it. The nation requires it because otherwise we are back in Europe in 1942, and that cannot be permitted to happen again. Every operation, however difficult, however morally complex, serves that fundamental purpose. You did not join the Institute to do something you're comfortable with. You joined because someone has to do the uncomfortable thing to keep 11 million people safe. And then you think Ahmed Bouchiki's wife gave birth to their daughter 2 months after Lillehammer. The daughter grew up without a father. Israel paid compensation to the family in 1996. 23 years later, it expressed sorrow but never officially acknowledged responsibility. Mossad director Zamir said, "Years later, in retrospect, we know that our source was not reliable, and his information misled us. Not one of us has the means of making only correct decisions. Wrong identification of a target is not a failure. It is a mistake. A mistake, you sit with that word." 6 years later, they find the Red Prince in Beirut. A female Mossad agent rents an apartment on the Rue Verdun in November 1978, using a British passport. She watches Ali Hassan Salameh's patterns for months. She is precise. She is patient. She files her assessments, and the assessments are reliable. In January 1979, a bomb in a Volkswagen on a street he uses every day ends the operation that began in Munich in 1972. You read about it in a newspaper, you feel something, you're not certain what, not satisfaction, not completion. Something more like the specific, exhausted relief of a person who has been holding a breath for 6 years and is now slowly let it out. The right man is dead.